Uzbekistan'ga xush kelibsiz.
Welcome to Tashkent, the capital of Uzbekistan, and Toto. We are far away from Kansas.
We're quite literally on the opposite side of the planet from our home in Los Angeles. It's been a long journey to get here. We have an awesome itinerary lined up. This is going to be an epic vlog series, and we are super stoked to be in Uzbekistan.
Don't know much about the stands, have not really been out to this part of the world before, but I personally am super excited about the Silk Road. I love the story of how East and West came together, and few places in the world are associated with that story as the ancient cities of here in Uzbekistan.
I'm excited to eat. The food here is incredible. I've had Uzbekistan cuisine before and it's delicious. Apart from that, like Mark said, this is a super unique corner of the world. It's where empires have been made and destroyed, and I can't wait to get out of Tashkent and into the rest of Uzbekistan because we have a pretty wild itinerary.
Not to mention that our ancestral namesakes came through here, Alexander the Great, Marco Polo. So we've got some footsteps of great people to trace. I'm excited for this series because I've always been super interested in the history of globalization, how trade, technologies, and conquest turned humanity from a bunch of isolated pockets into the global world we live in today. And nowhere is more central to that story than here.
From the time of Alexander the Great to the spread of Islam and the Mongol invasions that came later, this place has made and broken many empires. I'm super excited to follow in the footsteps of these great conquerors and understand why this place was so crucial.
Right now is the perfect time to visit Uzbekistan. The country was largely closed off to foreigners since the end of the Cold War, but with a new president, there's been tons of reforms, visas are easier to get, and this place is going to be very popular with tourists very soon, but still an undiscovered gem. We're about to go on a trip to discover the best of Uzbekistan. Vibrant markets, stunning scenery, and reminders of the spectacular rise and shocking fall of civilizations.
Forget what you think you know about the stands. You're watching Vagabrothers, and this is Uzbekistan.
First day here in Tashkent. This is the capital. It's not the oldest or most historic city in Uzbekistan, and a lot of it was destroyed in the 60s during an earthquake. But this is the main square. Here we have the statue of Amir Timur. He is kind of like the Genghis Khan of Uzbekistan. Behind us we have the Hotel Uzbekistan, which was like the main place to stay during Soviet times. According to legend, every room in the Hotel Uzbekistan was bugged back in the day because that's just the way the Soviet Union was in those times. There's a lot of changes happening in Uzbekistan. For example, there used to be a statue of Karl Marx right there. He was swapped out with a statue of Amir Timur. Timur was basically the Genghis Khan of Uzbekistan and is part of the national identity they're forming in this relatively new country.
All right, ladies and gents, right now we are at the Cosmonaut Station. We're in the metro, and interesting little fact, little historical fact, this was actually closed to photography and videography until only 3 months ago. It's been closed to photography for over 40 years for a very interesting reason. But let's hop on a train and we'll tell you why. Definitely funny being like the only tourist in the entire city of Tashkent, because that's how I feel right now. But especially being on the metro, we're the only people who are not from here who are on here. So it's kind of fun just embracing that and just smiling at people.
Tashkent's underground is beautiful, but photography was banned for decades because during the Cold War, this was built as a bomb shelter because nuclear warfare was never far away. It was also a very strategic military installation. So that makes us the first people to film this and put it on YouTube ever.
As we know, the reason that this place is called the Cosmonaut Station is because Uzbekistan and the stands in general were the home to the Russian or Soviet space program. There were lots of cosmonauts, which were the Soviet version of an astronaut. But the best news is there's plenty of stations, this is only one, and we have more to explore. We've just arrived to the station Alisher Navoyi, and he was like the William Shakespeare of Uzbek language. But this is probably one of the most beautiful metro stations I've ever seen. I've heard about the metro stations in St. Petersburg being very, very beautiful, but this is the closest that I've gotten there. But I just love the Islamic architecture, the domes, all of the lines. Like if you're into photography, if you're into symmetry and the rule of thirds, you can have a lot of fun here.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of represents how this is a new country. And in the 1970s, during the Soviet times, they were really trying to build a sense of national identity by combining the grandiose Soviet architecture with historical figures from the past, whether that be like in the Cosmonaut Station, there were the ancient medieval Islamic astronomers with Soviet astronauts. Here you have Islamic architecture, a writer, and then there's also one down the street which is all cotton themed, which is one of the major exports here in Uzbekistan.
Well, we have arrived to the Islamabad Center of Plav. Plav is like pilaf, it's a rice and meat dish with fruits and nuts. Behind us is 440 kilograms, nearly 1,000 pounds of rice, beef, and mutton, and it smells so good.
So this is a dish that you see across Central Asia, everywhere from Persia all the way to India. But here in Uzbekistan, it's a really special treat. They serve it on special occasions. This place opens only for lunch. They serve up 1,000 pounds of this stuff, and when it's gone, it's gone. So you got to get it while the getting's good, and it smells delicious. So enough talking, time to eat. So the food has arrived. We have this excellent bread with this yogurt, which is great for helping with digestion. But the main course right here is the plav. It's got lamb meat on top, horse sausage, quail, yellow carrots, chickpeas, raisins, and awesome waitresses. So it's time to dig in. It's not every day that you eat horse sausage, but you know, when in Rome, and this is certainly the way they do things here.
Plav or pilaf is one of those dishes that is cross-border. Many different nationalities kind of claim it as their own, but the reality is that it's a dish from this region, from Central Asia, and it's spread to other parts of the world from here.
Okay, so we popped off the metro at Chorsu Bazaar. This is the oldest bazaar in the city. It's from 800 AD, so it's over 1,200 years old. And as we said, like a lot of these cities were trading cities from the dawn of civilization. So we're gonna take a look around the market, see what's for sale, and build up our appetite.
Just stepped inside of the market, which is housed in this giant kind of geodesic dome. It smells like meat in here. This is the meat market. It's quite literally a meat market. But there's all sorts of stuff. There's like pickled vegetables, there's sausages, there's crazy meat cuts. People are kind of like yelling in that like quintessential market voice, you know, that's like trying to get your attention to come and buy something. But it's cool. It's definitely different. This is a new corner of the world, different style of food. It smells like vinegar and meat in here.
New York, Washington,
California.
California.
Yeah. Uzbekistan. Okay, so here in Central Asia, there's a lot of milk dishes, and they become cheeses or almost like yogurts. But then there's various forms. Like it's kind of like a wine. You have like the new one, the aged one. This is the super aged, so there's no liquid left. It's basically like a cheese ball. Whoa, very sour, acquired taste, but probably gonna be good for digestion.
I've never seen so many different types of nuts and fruits on display ever, anywhere. But this is an almond. Let's try it out. Very good. There's so many colorful fruits and vegetables on display, and it's just very vibrant, you know? People are speaking different languages that I've never heard before, and this is one of the reasons why travel is just so fulfilling and enlightening, because it really just takes you out of what you know and puts you into something that you've never experienced before. So we've made our way into a bakery and we're surrounded by bakers. It's really cool. They're making the traditional bread here in Uzbekistan, which is pretty simple. It's almost like a bagel, and then they top it with sesame and they cook it in these big ovens behind us. It's crazy. There's like bread stuck up against the wall, but very cool experience.
When you think of the great capitals of ancient civilizations, what do you think about? Maybe Rome, ancient Egypt, or Cusco, but you probably don't think of Samarkand. And yet this city is not only gorgeous, it played a crucial role in bringing the world closer together. Put simply, this was the center of the world for centuries, and it's the most beautiful and important city that you probably haven't heard of.
Samarkand was coveted by many. It was conquered by Alexander the Great, destroyed by Genghis Khan, and rebuilt to its current splendor by Timur, the father of modern Uzbekistan, who turned Samarkand into his imperial capital. This is the Registan, the central square of Samarkand and the most beautiful place in Central Asia. Back in the day, this was a wall-to-wall bazaar.
This is where East literally met West, and in the 14th century, it's where Spanish traders encountered Chinese silk merchants had an idea that would change the course of history, cut out the middlemen, and find a sea route to Asia. So this is Afro-Siab. It's a giant big field right now, but it's the original city that dates back to 6th century BC, making it about as old as Rome or Babylon.
It's pretty incredible to be in a complex like this, sprawling, massive ancient city that now just looks like a bunch of mounds. There's pottery shards everywhere. I'm literally holding what must have been a handle for a cup or...
Should you be touching that?
I don't know, there's nobody here to tell me not to. And my inner archaeologist says, screw it, I'm gonna take a look. But I think that coming here, seeing this, it really spawns a lot of questions. Why did they build this place? What caused them to leave it? And what, if anything, still remains? And I think that if we dig deep enough, we can find out. Let's go. You ever live next to a construction site that seems like it would just never finish? Sagrada Familia in Barcelona, the 405 freeway back home in LA. Well, compared to this place, it's just a blink of an eye.
This is the necropolis Shah-i-Zinda, named after the cousin of the Prophet Muhammad, Qasim ibn Abbas. He was here preaching Islam when he was beheaded, and according to legend, instead of dying, his body picked up his severed head, carried it to a nearby well, and went inside, where he apparently is still living to this day, hence the name the Living King.
whatever the truth, what we do know to be true is that locals have been building temples and mausoleums here since the 11th century, making it one of the longest continual construction sites in the world.
So we're standing in what remains of the observatory of Ulugh. He was the grandson of Timur, and unlike his grandfather, who spent time conquering the world, he was a scientific man. He built this observatory, and it is still accurate. The predictions they made back then of the motion of the planets, the inclination of the Earth, all sorts of astral observations are incredibly accurate to this day.
So at the restaurant, they offer 18 different types of kebabs. And because we're here once and you only live once, we've ordered all 18. You know, one of the problems, or one of the benefits of traveling in this part of the world, is that vodka is a celebratory aspect of almost every meal.
This is to get the body kind of going. And so, how do you say cheers in Uzbek? Oldik.
Old dick! Old dick! As so often happens, one shot leads to two, leads to three, leads to the Vagabrothers and crew polishing a half liter of vodka at lunch.
Well, the French drink a bottle of wine with lunch, so why not drink a bottle of vodka?
Kern?
Attitude.
They say that history is written by the victors. But if that's the case, then why do the history books not talk about Timur, a figure as powerful as he was controversial, whose victories on the battlefield built an empire that stretched from Istanbul to India?
This is the Bibi Khanum Mausoleum, the final resting place of the wife of Timur. Now Timur, when he was born, Samarkand was in ashes, destroyed by the fearsome Mongol warlord Genghis Khan. And he saw himself as the heir to Kang's legacy. And so for 35 years, he waged a war of conquest that eventually united everywhere between Egypt and Persia, India and Russia. And he built this city as his capital using the spoils of victory.
In Uzbekistan, he's remembered as a hero who brought power, wealth, and prestige that's still celebrated and remembered today. Not so much in the places he conquered, who remember the brutal destruction of cities, the murder of tens of millions of people, and the ruthless repression of anyone who stood in his way, aka the Uzbekistan Tywin Lannister.
In all his wars, he killed 17 million people, the same amount as the entire First World War, or 5% of the world's population. That's like the entire population of the United States today. In Isfahan, in Iran, when they wouldn't pay taxes, he built 28 heads of human towers, with 1,500 heads each. And, most famously, he conquered Delhi, one of the most important cities of the world, using the riches from that conquest to build this beautiful mausoleum.
Wow, so ornate. Just incredible detail. The whole ceiling is just lit up and golden. Do you believe in curses? You know, like ones involving the Staff of Ra, the Ark of the Covenant, Nazis? Well, don't leave just yet because this story involves Nazis, curses, and guess what? It's real.
Inside this mausoleum is the final resting place of Timur, where it reads, "Whoever disturbs my tomb will suffer the wrath of an invader even more terrible than I." Flash forward to June 21st, 1941, Soviet archaeologists are about to pry open the casket of Timur despite warnings from the elders. The very next day, Hitler invades the Soviet Union in Operation Barbarossa, sparking a conflict that kills as many people as all of Timur's wars combined. Coincidence? Vengeance from the grave? You decide. But one person who did believe it was Joseph Stalin, so much so that after a few months, he returned the remains from Moscow back to Samarkand, and shortly thereafter defeated the Nazis at the Battle of Stalingrad, turning the course of World War II. What a day!
Timur, hero, villain, badass, undeniably so. Amazing stories, amazing history. Here we are in the middle of Central Asia. We've eaten lamb sticks, you ate testicles, we drank a bunch of vodka, and we have had an epic adventure in Samarkand.
I love days like this because travel really makes you realize how little you know about the world.
And how little you are.
Yeah, and how much more there is to explore. The fact that a city like this can exist with stories like this and a character like Timur, who most of us really don't even learn about in history, it's really humbling. It makes you realize how much more we have to discover.